Good afternoon and welcome. Today we have four doctors who are pursuing a career in medicine. Adwaith Satish is a final year MBBS student at Ramachandra Medical College. He did his schooling at PSBB in KK Nagar and he's interested in specializing in gastrointestinal surgery. Adwaith, welcome to the show. Can you hear me? You can't? Okay, I don't think Adwaith can hear me right now, but let's go ahead. One sec. Mansi Kumaria has cleared her MBBS this year in April from MMC. Recently, she has sat for the NEET PG and is waiting for counseling. Apart from medicine, she reads, writes poetry, and loves baking cookies. Mansi, welcome to the show.
Hello, sir. Thank you so much for having me here.
Great to have you, Mansi. Okay. And finally, Ramita, a CRMI, she informs me that this is a year-long internship from Government Medical College, Omandur, Government Estate. She completed her schooling at Fatima Matriculation and she's interested in pursuing neurology since she feels there is so much to discover. Ramita, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me here. And I wish the best for the other two participants as well.
Great. Okay. So I'd just like to introduce briefly about the show. This is episode 95 of My First Job, the podcast that covers engaging career journeys. And every single one of them has been full of twists, turns, and insights, including the recording. I'm Venugopal Nair, the host of the podcast and CEO of Ideascape Communications, an advertising agency into branding, creative, and design. So settle in, sit back, and enjoy the conversation. So we'll get Adwaith on, and I'll ask you, Mansi. Did you ever think you'll be a doctor?
Actually, I never thought of anything else but being a doctor since childhood. Like the first toy that I got was a doctor's hat, I remember. And once my dad went to Malaysia and we did not have those Barbies. The Barbie launched I am series Barbie edition, and I told my dad to get me I am a Doctor Barbie, and uh, I didn't look back
Wow.
after that.
That's really starting young. Amazing. So you knew it's almost as if destiny had made sure that Mansi, here's a girl who's going to go out into the world and become a doctor. Great.
Yeah.
So Ramita, what about you? What is your tryst with medicine been like?
Okay, actually, compared to the other people who have always wanted to pursue medicine, I did not always want to pursue medicine. It's kind of funny. When I was very young, like for example, when I was like a 3-year-old child or something, I wanted to be an elephant. like, like, no capital. I wanted to be an elephant. That was like my career goal. And then like I was fascinated by other different things. Like at that time, I was reading about Kalpana Chawla and Sunita Williams, and so I wanted to become an astronaut at some point in time. And then I was like, the rapper Eminem, right? Do you know him?
Yeah.
Right.
So I wanted to be a sound engineer because they are the ones who manufacture the beats of those rap songs and all of those things. So I wanted to be a sound engineer. And then when I was like, let's say around 12 years of age, I got into anime and I wanted to become an anime artist at that time. So, and then,
Wow.
so as you go on, and before during my 11th, I wanted to apply for engineering, but then I really did not like it. So I was like, you know what, finally I'm going to settle on medicine. I just chose medicine off like that.
Amazing, Ramita. You have a suitcase full of dreams. Anyway, wonderful. So Advait, I hope your sound is finally working. It is?
It's all working, sir. As long as all of you can hear
Wonderful.
me, I'm
No,
so
no, no,
sorry.
don't
The
worry
Wi-Fi
about that.
just last minute.
So all happens.
Yeah.
So tell me, did you ever think you'll be a doctor?
So, well, to be honest, not really. But I think the way it worked was so my entire family is into business. There is not a single science graduate in my family. We're all commerce. Everybody is commerce. So I think I was around when I was in my 10th standard. I was still fully into economics, the beginnings of 10th, my 10th standard. And maybe I think it was one day we had a biology exam in class, and I scored a full 25 on 25. And then for some reason I felt that this is what I could do. And I told my father, he's my best friend. So I told him, listen, this is what I think this is what it is. And I want to become a doctor. And he said, no way. He said, you're not cut out for it. You don't have the compassion that, a doctor needs. So he's like, you're the least compassionate person I know. And me and him, we were taking a scooter ride somewhere. And then he was honking at some cyclist in front of him who was like carrying like a big set of rods and all of that, the rickshaw wala. So he had a
Right.
lot of rods and he was honking. Dad also had to get to somewhere. And I was telling Dad, listen, he's cycling in the hot sun. Show a little mercy, like, let him, we can wait. We have a motorized. That's the first time he said, I've seen like a shred of compassion in you. You know what? Maybe you have what it takes to make it. And so I think after that, it was sort of, I
Okay.
felt that.
Okay.
So I think the most important thing is once the compassion is there, automatically the rest of the things follow.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Great. So let me ask you another question, which I'm sure is top of mind to all the millions of students who answer NEET and various other entrance exams every year. I'm not going to ask you about what it felt like to get through because obviously that's one. Sometimes I wonder what happens when the media puts the thing into people's faces and says, what do you feel about getting the first rank? You don't feel anything. At least I haven't got the first rank, so I don't know. But what was that first day in college like? What are the things, the early incidents in medical college when you joined that imprinted itself on your mind? Mansi?
So, thank you for the question, first of all. See, med school is another world, I would say, because the first time that we enter, like the person like me who always wanted to be a doctor, it was a dream come true. And the
Okay.
first thing that you experience is the smell of formalin in dissection hall and cadavers, and you have to be in a line and learn how to dissect and learn about each and every part of the body, the veins, the arteries, and we also have to learn all the bones. So it's hard. It's hard for the first year getting used to the environment and the pressure of exams. We were giving it like for the 5.5 years we were always giving exams, sent ups, professional exams, and you get used to that. And then senior junior thing is quite prevalent in med school. So before the freshers, we had to be in the line, wish our seniors, namaste boss, namaste ma'am, namaste boss, namaste ma'am, and all of that is a memory now.
Okay. But the actual learning, is that tough for you? Do you just get used to it?
For sure, it is tough. My sister, like my cousin sister, is also a doctor in the US. She always says that med school is tough, but it is not for weak people. So, yeah, you have to get used to it. It's not easy, but you get used to it.
Okay. Great. Ramita, what was your first impression
Uh,
of med school?
during in my batch, I was the 2019 batch. This we were called the CBME batch. I would call us the experimental batch because
Okay.
we had like a 30-day foundation course. So we did not immediately, go to the dissection hall and do all of those things. So what we did for the 30-day foundation courses, like we did a lot of like dramas. Like we acted out scenarios like how do you give a counseling to a patient with diabetes, like those sort of scenarios. We acted, we did some dramas, and then we sang a lot, we danced a lot. So for the first 30 days, it was more of like, like a carnival sort of thing. It was not as if we were actually, in the MBBS curriculum. But as similar to Mansi, actually, I volunteered for the first dissection in my for our table cadaver, and halfway through it, I was sitting, fainted on a table because I could not take it. And but what I would like to say is, I really like dissection. For my table, from the start to the end, I was the main dissector for the whole year. So from fainting on the table to finishing the entire dissection, that was my experience with it.
That's quite a lot of progress. Okay, so Adwaith, what was your first impression?
So, well, to be honest, I started my first year in the year 2020, which is COVID, the time of COVID. So we didn't have the foundation course as much. We didn't have the orientation. It was just directly into the dissection hall. So, as I was saying previously, when I realized that when it was finally the green light was given for me to go ahead with medicine, saying because I had the compassion to do so, I thought I'd take it one step further. And like Mansi very beautifully described, the smell of formalin, we had Monday morning dissection. So that is enough to wake you up because it's something that it'll hit you till your brain. It'll hit right there and it just gives you that jolt and you wake up. So our HOD, very sweet lady, she was asking all of us, where and all we were coming from and what our interests were and all of that. And nobody was, and nobody felt like going and dissecting. So she asked, would anybody like to try dissection? So I'm somebody who raises my hand for everything, whether I know the answer or don't know the answer. I just love volunteering. I'll jump first and think later. That's the sort of person I am. So I raised my hand, and I have never held a scalpel. I have never been in a hospital because, like I said, no previous medicos in my family. I'm the first medical student. I walked in and held the scalpel, and she'd asked me to dissect the radial artery. So, and to insert the scalpel inside it in such a way that the artery doesn't get cut or get incised. And I managed to do it somehow. And she asked me if my parents were surgeons, to which I replied, no, they have nothing to do with anything scientific. And so she said, you probably have a natural talent for it. So that is the day I decided that, this, if I'm talented at this and if it's coming from such a well-established source, then this is probably, calling out to me. So that is how it happened.
Okay, great. So being in med school, okay, you progress. I think it gets to a point where one day blurs into another. And you're caught up in exams, you're caught up in parts of the human body and what it takes and how do you get into diagnosis. At any point, do you think that you're learning or you're just being filled with information which at some time you think you will process? Mansi?
So, see, the lecture halls can be mundane, to be very honest. Like, I was in the middle row always, and there were times I'd listen to the lecture, and sometimes I would be doing my own shit, like talking to girls or doing hey ha stuff. But the most that I learned personally was in the clinics. In my third and fourth year, we were given case and we were supposed to take histories. And it was on you that how much could you learn, and the PGs would help if we wanted to ask anything. And in the final year of med school, we're supposed to know all the examinations of the systems. So we'd be assigned one patient and we had to do all the examination with, of course, with the consent of the patient. So I'd say clinics were the favorite part of the whole curriculum for me. Like I'm not a very sit and learn kind of a person. I'm more of a do and learn kind of a person. So yeah.
Okay, great. Ramita, what about you?
For me, I felt like it was like a kind of a bit of both, because like the information is vast in medicine. Like one person cannot learn everything. Like even the basic MBBS curriculum, I don't think even if you ask like the greatest doctors, they would know everything that is there even in the MBBS curriculum alone. So what I would suggest is, for me, what I did personally, I learned whatever I could, if from the lectures, like absorbing passively, and the others, what I want to know, I put in my own effort. So it was like a lot of information that I processed in my own time.
Okay. Okay. Great. Adwaith, what is your
So,
experience?
in my opinion, I think, like Ramita said, it's a bit of both because when you have the information, you can apply it practically. So, it is a balance of both. But I've been hearing from most of my seniors tell me that, at least in my college, there is no practical application done properly until the fourth year. And it's only in the internship that you're really driven to apply whatever you've learned. Because I'm doing my final year, I haven't, to be very honest, I haven't spent a lot of time in the clinics. I've just started to due to a couple of inspiring moments that happened to me. So I would say that right now I'm somebody who's just been reading my textbook and not really spending a lot of time with the patients. But I would like to because I think that is the most important thing. Only when you know what is in the, only when you can apply what you've learned is when the essence of MBBS really starts. So at least with me, from whatever I've heard from my seniors and my professors, the real the real MBBS starts after your final year when you're in your internship and when you're not reading much and with patients constantly because internship is a 24/7 job. You have 18-hour shifts, you have 24-hour shifts, you are constantly working. You don't have time to read. So obviously you've read some, you've accumulated some knowledge, and you're applying whatever you know. And as practice, you will obviously have seniors and postgraduates to help you assimilate all that information that you've learned and apply it. So as and when that practice time comes, I think that is when you actually start being a doctor. Like when you start really communicating with the patient. So that crucial time is that internship period when you're with the patients and you don't have when you're not reading when you're applying what you've read. So I would say the first 4 years is accumulating, and that 1 year is just you're it's because it's completely different. It's a very different internship is very different compared to the first 4 years of MBBS.
Okay.
So
Great. So give me an incident that stands out from the first 4 years of study. The point at which you realize this is what I've signed up for. And is this what medicine is really about? Mansi?
So, like, it was my first day of internship. Like, the day I had joined, and it was also my birthday, like 29th March 2023. I still remember. And I was posted in the medicine department, and we were supposed to take 2 hourly vitals of a patient. Like, there were three patients assigned to each intern, and we were three of us. And at 2, we were told to come in the male ward because there was this patient of hepatic encephalopathy. He had ascites. Like, I'm sorry for using too many medical terms, but
I'll look
so
it
he
up.
had
Okay.
ascites. Yeah. And so we were supposed to do a ascitic tap, which is also called paracentesis. So the PGs were gathered there, JR1, JR2, and I was the first one to reach before the other two interns, and they came eventually. So the senior PG, asked us questions about hepatic encephalopathy, what causes it, and all the questions that are relevant to that topic. So I answered two, three questions correct, and he gave me the chance to perform it. And while I was doing the Cytic tap under his guidance, obviously, because that was the first time I was doing it, something in me changed that day. That it's my birthday and it's my first day of internship, and I'm doing something that is so, so, so important. Like from fourth year of medical school, where I was just doing examinations, looking at the book or, searching it up on YouTube, like how to do this and that. I was actually doing something that will be of relief to the patient. So
Okay.
that changed a lot in me, and I knew that what I have signed up for the rest of my life, it's like I have somebody's life in my hands. So
Wonderful, Mansi.
that
Thank you. That's a
that
great
made me
recollection.
realize, yeah.
Great. Ramita, what came to your mind as to when you
Like
first got that?
from the 4 years that I studied, the most standout moment that I would say is, um, like we had this elective posting. The first half of the elective posting during your final year, the first half of it was from the preclinical subjects, and the second half was from the clinical subjects. From the clinical subjects, I chose IMCU, as that is the the ICU. The IMCU is basically the ICU. The first case that I saw was a case of ventricular tachycardia. The ventricular tachycardia is like a condition where the heart beats so fast that it doesn't form like a pulse. That's what it actually it basically means. So when the patient was in ventricular tachycardia, the PGs, the assistants, everyone was trying to like revive the patient, and the patient, unfortunately, the revival was not successful, and the patient like flatlined in front of me. I can even hear the sound of the beep sound. I can hear the sound even now, like when I think about it. So like that's when I realized that this is not actually a joke. Like what you do, like with what you do or you don't do can actually, as Mansi said, the life of the patient is in our hands. So what we do, what we don't do will actually, it'll, whether the pulse returns or the flat lines, it lies in your hands. So that's something I learned on that day.
Okay, that's an amazing realization, Mansi. And
Yeah.
Thank you for telling us about these things. Yeah. Adwaith, what about you? Again, I think Adwaith's line is not clear. I won't be able to. Adwaith, can you hear me? No, I don't think it's possible. Okay. Can you just tell Adwaith, or I'll send a message across to her? Okay. So the thing that I want to sort of concentrate on is, how do you decide as you're going through these years as to what you will do next? So is it that as you go through various departments, you try and figure out which one is working better, or how do you manage to figure that out for yourself? Mansi?
So as Ramita and Advait said, that it goes both ways, and you learn what actually medicine is when you come in internship, because you are a working doctor. So when we are posted in various departments for the whole year, we come to know that where our interests lie. As Ramita said, that she wants to be a neurologist. So maybe that's where her interests lie. I was always inclined towards derma for some reason. I don't know why. And my family says do something more vital than just looking at skin diseases. Do something that saves the patient's life. So now I am at crossroads which stream to take up now. So that will depend on counseling, but I think I'm more of a dermatology person. Like I love the procedures they do, PRPs. And also derma is not only about dermatology, is not only about skin diseases. It is also about sexual disorders. So in some way we are helping people. Hansen disease, that is leprosy, is one of the most common disorders in India. And dermatologists treat them. It's not only about beautifying stuff, that's cosmetology. That is not dermatology. And I
Is it
have a very
still
hard
very
time.
widely prevalent? Hansen's disease, leprosy is still fairly widely
No,
prevalent?
it's not. It's not in urban areas, but it is quite prevalent in the village aspect of the country. Like
Okay.
you don't see much of the cases in urban areas for sure, but my college was in more of a rural setup. So I'd say we had cases there. I had seen cases, like I had a 1 week long posting, and I had seen 3-4 cases in just 1 week. So I
Okay.
think every branch has its its importance, and there's I think that Dharma should be given credit, and it is one of the most famous branches now. So let's see where I
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. And it definitely is, it's going to set a whole lot of patients who are very worried about their skin to
Yeah,
get a
but
chance to get better. Yeah.
yeah, it's not
Yeah.
only about aesthetics. That's the message that I want to give. You have to read a lot in dermatology. It's just
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
about looking
I
beautiful.
know. I know because I've had a long standing problem. So I know exactly where you're coming from. So,
Yeah.
Okay. So, Ramita, what about you? What is your sense of how you'd like to decide on what you want to do next?
So basically, how I sort of decided what I want to do is because, like, I'm a person who gets bored very easily, actually. Like, I like figuring things out. I don't like, like whatever is there, to just, sort of read it out, to just sort of apply it again and again and get the same results. I sort of like figuring it out, figuring things out. And two departments that are there that really interest me. One of them is neurology, as I mentioned in my introduction, and the other would be emergency medicine. Now, I would like to explain why these two are. So, if you take the case of neurology, neurology up until like stroke is something that is very common, prevalent all throughout the world. Like almost all people know what stroke is. But do you know the treatment, like the treatment for stroke was only approved first in the year of 1996? You know how
Okay.
recent that is? Like a
Yeah.
circle, and there are like a lot of and there are a lot of things that we don't even know properly about neurology. For example, if you take the cardiovascular system, like people throughout, like they have a basic idea of what the entire pathophysiology is about each and every diseases. But a disease like for example, as common as Alzheimer's, still we don't know what the exact pathophysiology is to tackle Alzheimer's, effectively. So it needs a lot of figuring out, especially in the field of neurology. So I'm really interested in neurology on one aspect. When you come to emergency medicine is quite unlike neurology, where most of the emergencies have already, there are like firm guidelines which are laid out for each and every, for most of the emergencies that present to you in the ER. But when a patient comes to you in the ER, like you know very little about the patient. You Any organ system of the body can be affected in this patient, and it is your job to figure it out. So you see the common theme between the both. It's like figuring things out. So I am that sort of person. So I like this. I like these fields as of now.
It's amazing. And it's also giving a sense of how you have changed in the number of years that you've spent in learning
Hmm.
medicine. Because obviously, that is, whether you know it or not, these are the changes that happen within you because of what you're seeing on a day to day basis. So, can you quantify or can you figure out, Mansi, what are the changes that you have seen in yourself as a person before you joined
So,
medicine and now that you're practicing it, or at least getting to the stage where you, yeah,
so I was one of these really, I don't want to say this, but I think I was one of these privileged kids who was born and raised in a city like Chandigarh, went to the best school in the city, Sacred Heart, like all girls school, and all girls school is a different world altogether. Like we'd go to each other's birthday party, dress up nice. Pink was everybody's favorite color. Like mine is still, because you can see my whole room is pink still. So yeah, it was just a very different world altogether, and I had this, a very wrong kind of a pride in me that I know everything, this and that naive wala pride, I'd say. But med school humbled me a lot. I came to know that I have a lot in me that needs to be changed. There are a lot of people who are more talented than me, hardworking than me. It came as a reality check to me that you have to work really hard to get where you are. And it made me more patient, calm. I was a very short tempered kid, I'd say. And now I'm much
okay,
more calm, much more patient with the patients, obviously. During my
okay,
internship, I was very calm, very composed. Even in most of the dreadful situations, you'd see me being okay, it's okay, we'll handle it. And all the repercussions that happen, it humbles you, like the vivas, ki besti and everything. It really does humble you. And I'm at a stage now where I'm a doctor. Like I'm an MBBS graduate and I have I can practice now, but
yeah,
I don't feel like I am a doctor. Like somebody comes and acknowledges me that you'd know this report and stuff. But I'll be like, are you asking me? So it has really humbled me from being that pompous kid to being a very humble doctor. I've come very far.
Great. Okay, so Adwaith, let's hope your phone, your
Yes,
thing is working right now. It is.
my Wi-Fi has just decided to not be my friend today. That's I'm very sorry about
Okay,
that.
good.
Yes,
No,
sir.
no, no, not at all. So, what do you think was one of the biggest things in med school that changed you or made a huge influence on you? What were the things that you remember?
Thank you for that question, sir. Actually, this incident happened, I think, exactly 3 weeks back, and I'll be very honest with you, sir. I was an average student throughout school. My performance used to either be at the top or at the bottom. For some reason, I could never seem to, be in the middle, and that was a constant complaint my parents had at every parent-teacher meeting they went. The teachers could never figure me out. They could never understand if I was smart, if I was stupid. They could never figure it out. They were like, he's either at the top or either at the bottom. There is no in between. This was the case
He
throughout
doesn't
school.
take the middle path. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So ever since I was a kid, I knew I was different. The way I thought, the way I, moved around. But defining moment, I would say for me, so 3 weeks back, a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, his mother had a growth in her pituitary gland, which is near the brain. So that kept pressing on something called the optic chiasma, which essentially helps you see. So whatever you see and whatever is interpreted by the brain, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
sir. Whatever is
No, you
interpreted by
just
the
keep going, Advait. Don't
yeah,
worry.
yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever is interpreted by the brain, it sort of because of the growth compressing that, it used to hamper her vision. So she went to a lot of doctors and they scared her with big medical terms and they lot of drugs prescribed and they said tumor. They used the word tumor. And so he sent
Okay.
me the report. And before reading it, I said, listen, dude, I have no idea. I'm just, from whatever little bit I've learned, I will try to help you come to a conclusion. So he's like, Bhaiya, you don't tell me, you please speak to my mother. And she's like, and he's like, she's really worried, she's nervous, she's freaking out, and all of that. So I said, I will try, I don't know. So I started talking to this lady, and she said, she's like, after I was done, she said, you're the only person who's explained this to me in a language that I understand, with no arrogance, with no pomp. And she said, God bless you. I wish you all the prosperity in life, she said. And for most people, this might seem like a very trivial thing, but as a person who had not gone to the clinics, as a person who had not bothered interacting with patients, for me, this was a big eye opener. It was a huge eye opener. And when I heard that, I said, imagine if this is the impact I can have on one person with whatever little bit I know. If this isn't enough to help me strive forward, I don't know what is. And she said, even now, she still calls me and asks me, how are you, Bacha? Is everything okay? How are you doing? And that is just one thing. I did not cure her. I did not treat her. I just calmed her down. And if that had an impact on, if it could have an impact on somebody like that, then, that is what I
Absolutely.
realized though. The gratitude
Absolutely.
that it, yeah. So
You have the chance to do that. That's the amazing part.
exactly, sir.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
Ramita, what's your experience been?
Okay, like when comparing pre-med school and during my internship, what I observed was before med school I was like this very like in a shell introvert kind of child that I was. And during most of my med school also I sort of kept to myself, reading my books, doing whatever. Like if I wanted to read books, I read books at the time. If I wanted to watch what videos or whatever, I watched it. Even during the lectures I didn't care. I was caught for it so many times as well. Like one time the teacher, like the professor, she saw that I was twiddling with my phone. She asked me to stand up. She told me a question. I read the question the previous day, so I answered it. But she knew that I would not listen, so she made me stand the whole time, for the lecture. And so I didn't really care much. It's like I just did whatever I wanted. And when coming to internship here, I learned like very pretty early on that that is not how you can survive with treating patients. You cannot survive it like that. So I say it impacted me is that I learn to communicate better. I learned to whether I did the other works or not, I went and addressed the patient's concern. Like I before the teachers, they come for the rounds. I just sort of go to all the patients and see if they have any concerns. I address their concerns, I reassure them. I sometimes I even make jokes with them. So in that way they are like fond of me. So I figured that like in spite of the treatment that you give, this sort of personal interaction, this communication that you have with your patients, that will increase their gratitude to you. Like some patients, like they even call me sometimes and they like ask me how you're doing. And you know what, as Adwaith said, I never treated these people. Like the main treatment is done by the PGs and the assistants. They are the decision makers. We are just the enablers, I would say so. And in even that, in a small way only. But like this personal communication with the patient that you have, they remember you more than they remember the people with the big decision making skills and all. So communication with the patient and prioritizing their needs before yours is what I would say like changed in these years with medicine for me.
Okay, terrific. You know what I'm getting a sense of talking to the three of you is that you're that, for most people graduating from college or finishing engineering or it's a graduate kind of sets them up for a job. Now, as far as you're concerned, this is just halfway there, or it is, let's say, 3/4 of the way there, and then you're looking at. So how are you making up your mind about how you'll practice medicine? Because there is a reality, and then there is a what do you say, ideal that you're hoping to work towards. The reality is that hospitals are growing. The number of hospitals available are far bigger than used to be there before. A lot more patients are getting treated, but the costs of medicine, the costs of getting through medical school is also increasing year by year. So, in your mind, how are you seeing this? It's a hard question for you to answer, and I think it's more addressed towards parents who are supposed to be doing it. But in your mind, what goes on?
So I'd say pursuing medicine is a very personal decision. And I think if you sign up for it, it is for your own self because there's a lot of hard work involved. 5.5 years of MBBS, then somebody takes up a drop for PG prep, somebody takes it the same year, then 3 years of MD or MS. Then you also have super specialities of 3 years, MCH and DM. So there's a lot of hard work, and you put in your early 20s, your youth into it. So it has to come from within you, like as Derek Shepard says in Grey's Anatomy, it's a beautiful day to save lives. So it has to come from within. All the hard work, all the persistence, all the perseverance, it goes up to you what kind of a doctor you become. The setup comes later, but the decision making comes from within you. How much hard work you want to put up, and where do you want to scale up as a doctor? Like how successful you will be depends on you more than the system, I'd say. Whether you've done your MBBS from private college, from a government college, from a peripheral medical college, it does not matter much because MBBS is a journalized study of 19 subjects. And you streamline into your masters wherever you go, whether it's dermatology, radiology. That's when you know what kind of a doctor you will become in your postgraduate studies, I'd say.
Okay, great.
So, as you had earlier said, that there's half of the ladder has been climbed. So, in my humble opinion, when it's an MBBS student, there is no measure of the ladder. That's the bane and boon of MBBS, or the study of medicine, because you can keep climbing. you can keep specializing, super specializing, super specializing, and just, take your, skill and your craft forward as much as you'd like. Coming to the point of the system, so MBBS, no matter whether you get in through government or whether you get into private, the work is going to be the same. Everybody is going to work the same. And we live in a day and age where MBBS is not the only way to get recognized. Granted, MBBS does give you a certain recognition, but we in 2024, I mean, we're almost ending 2024, in this age, we can get recognized and we can enter the medical field through so many different ways rather than just MBBS. And if I'm a big believer in what is meant to us will come to us. So if it is supposed to come to you, it will come to you. How much ever you work for it, how much ever you don't, if it's supposed to happen, it'll happen. There is no two ways about it. And you have biomed, you have biotech, you have genetic studies, so many different ways. And an MBBS student is reliant on a lot of other fields as well. A doctor is reliant on a nurse, a doctor is reliant on technicians. So the system prepares us as a whole. It is a system, we can't change it. We can either fight it or we can join it. So, it is completely up to how you look at it, sir.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a very considered answer. Ramita, what's your take?
I would disagree with you that, if you finish MBBS, like 3/4 of your so-called journey is finished. I don't even think like 10% of your journey is over as a doctor if you complete just MBBS, in my humble opinion. Because as I said earlier, MBBS is like a mix and match amalgamation of 19 subjects that you can take as a doctor. Okay, and it's just a little bit like maybe 5% of each of these subjects put together. So the rest 95% of each of the subjects you don't know. So MBBS, as you said, like covering up to 50% of what you are supposed to achieve as a doctor is highly false in my opinion. And so like nowadays, what I would say is just with MBBS, there is very little that you can do. There are things you can do, of course, but just with MBBS, it's very little that you can do. Because even when in internship, like I just finished surgery posting like a while ago. Surgery, like how surgery works is like you get 6 weeks of a surgical rotation. Like I obviously learned a lot about dressings and how certain surgical procedures are done and what the post-op care is. But even for like the most common surgeries, if you ask me like in depth about each of those things, like what will be the post-op care, what will be the counseling of this patient, like a few places I feel like I might lag. So MBBS is a stepping stone, but it is like the first step of a very huge journey that there is. Even the PG, I would say, like only after you finish your PG, you will know like certain things about each of the what of your subject is. So yeah, I think MBBS is just the stepping stone, and there is a long way ahead, to reach where you want to reach. And as Adwaith said, like it's not just MBBS as in treating patients alone. Like the research basis of medical science is also like growing up exponentially as of now. I think in the future, like the research aspect will take over the clinical aspect to find out, like as I said, I'm interested in neurology, so I'm talking from that point of it. Like the research is extremely lacking in neurology. So I think the research aspect of it and the clinical aspect of it will sort of compete hand in hand, so that the treatments get more patient oriented and the patients get early recovery, in my opinion.
Okay, great. So this is something that comes up in practically every career, whether it's medicine or it's any other career. What is the starting point? What are the salaries like? How much do you stand to make when you're a doctor, when you're an engineer, because this is like it's now become a kind of yardstick by which people judge. There used to be a time when what you were doing was important, but now what is it that people earn? For some strange reason, that has become the yardstick. So how do you navigate through something like this?
So I'd say that like you graduate med school at 24, 25 years of age, like 24, 23, 24. Like and you start earning when you are 23. And compared to the engineer background, you start earning when you are 21. So there's not much, education about finances in med students because they start earning 2, 3 years later than those guys who are already investing in mutual funds, SIPs, and all. And we as interns start on a very humble stipend, which does not really make ends meet if we are living in another city. And I don't even want to mention what my stipend was. It was under 15K. So it was just nothing. But you don't do it for the money that you get. It's just you feel good working as a doctor, and the money comes in when you get into your postgraduate studies. If you're from a government college or a good private medical college, you're doing your PG, so you get around 80 to 90K per month. So it's okay for the starters. And then, as Adwaith said, there's no ladder, If you are a good clinician, if you are famous among your patients, the patients will keep coming to you when you become a
Absolutely.
practitioner. When you become a
Okay.
practitioner, so you can earn in lakhs in a month. Then we start humbly, but we can go anywhere we want to. I'd say that.
Okay. Great. Advait, what's your take?
So when you asked me this question, a very rather quirky line by my uncle came to mind. So he's not a doctor, but he's in the US, and he was trying to convince me to do my postgraduate in the US. So he said it's going to be hard for you during your late 20s and your 30s when you see your friends starting families and getting married while you're sitting with your books. But then you start off with a beach house and a Ferrari. These were his exact words. They're not very true, but these were his exact words.
Okay.
So, but sir, I believe that if a person is interested to make money, they'll figure out some way to make it. Be it whether you're in MBBS, whether you're in engineering, because finance is something that everybody's slowly becoming aware of. This generation wants to make money. We're a very practical generation. Even
Yeah.
MBBS students, it's a big dilemma whether we do it for the gratitude or whether we do it for the money. So, and it's very hard, it's a very fine line you have to walk because at on one stance, like I said, like when I took my friend's mother earlier, the gratitude that I got was, really lovely. But gratitude will not feed my family, right? So there is I have to be ideal, I have to be practical at one point. So because fortunately I've been taught about handling my finances from a young age because my family's been into business. I have worked for my family's company from the age of 15, and even now I've taken a break for my final year. So learning and trying to make money has always been something that I was taught how to do. So to answer your question, sir, like how Mansi had said, SIPs and all of that, it is a very interesting way to look about things because MBBS is not, it doesn't have to be your only source of income. We live in a day and age where multiple sources of income are the best way to live. When you have multiple income streams, you can sometimes take a break from one, focus on the other. It's a much more practical oriented lifestyle when you look at it on a larger scale of things. So
Okay.
but to put it in one, I'm so sorry, to put it in one very simple, straightforward way, you have to think of money as well. And it is very possible to scale up the ladder because surgeons make a lot of money. And if you decide to start your own practice and that blossoms into a hospital, then there's no looking back. Pratap C. Reddy, the founder of Apollo, sitting in the top 1%. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Ramita, what's your take on money and salary? And
As they both have previously summarized, like the most common, like the idea among my batchmates is, as Advait said, multiple streams of money. Like even one of my friends is there. Like he is very good at, he's good at baking goods. Making chocolates, bonbons. Like for Christmas, like he makes his own plum cakes and and he sells me. And so we are like, you know what? When you start your own business, we are all going to be shareholders in your business, so that when it grows into this huge cafe in like Chennai, we'll I'll also just sit on the passive income and things like that, so that was there. So but when it comes to like purely MBBS as such, like I think I was actually shocked at Mansi's revelation that it's just 15K or something like that for the internship, like for her. Like for my college, it's around 25 to 27K for my year. Like it will increase for my juniors, as the time goes on. And when the money that you make also depends on your field. I think orthopedic surgeons make the most amount of money, if I'm not wrong about the thing. And physicians they make a decent midway kind of money, I would say, median kind of money. And I think the low earning fields are, I would think, psychiatry. I'm not very sure about it, like psychiatry. And like PGs, they, as Mansi said, they earn somewhat of a decent sort of living. And when it comes to post PG, that is when the competition really starts. That is when you're on your own, like there's nobody there to guide you, so you have to learn everything like on your own, and you should be able to diagnose and treat the patients correctly, so the patients keep coming to you again and again. And so yeah, so that is also there. And money from not only from treating patients, and also there's this controversial thing, like you can keep up not like unethically, you can keep tie up with certain pharmaceutical companies and things like that, and they will also sponsor you for your things. So that is also there.
Okay, great. So what I see is a very practical, very down to earth set of people, all of whom have come at this from different directions and have very clear indications of how they'd like to live their life and how they've got their principles and the realities to contend with, because it's never, these questions are never easy. But I like what Adwaith said about saying that at the end of the day, a person doesn't need to be in medicine alone to make money. It depends on a frame of mind. And you come from, since you've come from a business family, that just seems that much more easier to understand, because a whole lot of us seem to take time to understand that it's as if certain professions make money and others don't. That is not the truth.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what I'd like you to do as we close is to tell me, what is it that you see of your life going forward? Okay. How is it that you plan to spend the next couple of years? Because this 5-year, 10-year and all that seems like a very distant kind of thing. So what is it that, so I've been talking to people in your age group, and this is the question I normally close with. What is on your mind here and now? Okay. So Mansi, would you like to go?
Yeah, so first of all, I just completed 5.5 years of med school, which was quite taxing given the last year, which was very hectic with the internship and everything. Just gave the PG exam. So for this 1 month, I've been relaxing, focusing on my hobbies, going to gym, baking cookies and cakes for my family, like pausing a bit because I don't know when the counseling will start. I just paused a bit to enjoy these days because these are not going to come back once I get into my postgraduate stuff. Then you just on the phone with mama or papa like हाँ मैं ठीक हूँ खाना खा लिया and everything, and you're just in the hospital for the rest of your days. So I'm just pausing and kind of enjoying this phase, and I'll be going into post graduation soon. So looking forward to it.
Great. All the best, Mansi.
Thank you, sir.
Adwaith?
I'm thinking there are two ways I can do this. One would be to say I'm very scared of my final year, my fourth year exams that are coming up, but I feel that will sort of negate, and I don't want to end it on a very sour note. But so my dream is to have my leave my legacy, like leave a legacy behind, and be known for something good. Because at the end of the day, you are known by what you do, right? Only you are in control of that. And you can be either known for something good or for something bad, or not be known at all. So, I've always loved being in the spotlight ever since I was young. And for me, I would probably want to start a practice of my own, have it blossom. And the way I would start to do that is probably because the beauty of studying in a private college is everybody has contacts, everybody is influential. And when you know the right way to get in touch with them, you start seeing things unfold slowly. And one of the reasons that my father had, given for enrolling me in a private college, he said, you might not see it now, but the friends you make, they will be very, helpful. You can help each other grow. It'll be a beautiful symbiotic relationship, because most of the people you see who have, big hospital chains, they're all very closely tied with their friends. Their friends work in the same hospital or are shareholders. So it's a very practical, approach. And fortunately, with the grace of God, I have found, lovely friends who I know would have my back. So probably do my post graduation in surgery, gastrointestinal surgery in the UK after my final year and my internship is done. And then
So
all goes well.
you're
I hope to,
preparing for MLE.
No,
Great.
I'm preparing for PLAB actually, UKMLE.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ramita, what's your
Okay,
take
so
on
by the end of
surgeries?
these 2 years, hopefully I complete my internship without much trouble. So that's like my first goal, of this. And within these 2 years, I would also, I'm like side by side. It's kind of hard, but I'm like preparing for my PG as much as I can. Like I'm solving questions on my tab. Like whenever I get free time, even sometimes like my PGs make fun of this a lot. Like my PGs and APs, like during admission day is supposed to be like very hectic. That is when your unit gets like most of the case, like all the cases that come on that day will come to your unit on that day. So whenever I have free time on my admission day, when I was in my surgery posting, I used to read, whatever they do in the EOTs, I used to read those topics in the thing. So they were like, this girl, instead of resting, she's just reading random shit on admission day. Like they make fun of me like that. So I hope all of these things, they come together and I'm like able to clear my exit exam. And I'm trying for like PG abroad. So yeah, I'm side by side preparing for that as well. So all the knowledge that I've accumulated here, I hope I can clear the exam in the first attempt and proceed with my PG as early as possible. So that's something that I want to do within these
Okay.
2 years.
Terrific.
I knew that you
Three
were
complete.
studious
Yeah. Yeah.
when you texted about what to prepare. I knew that this girl studies. You were giving me that topper vibe.
I mean, you are choosing dermatology. You also have to be a topper to get dermatology. So
Okay. It's wonderful how I got three completely different perspectives and ways of approaching this, because that's precisely what I started this show out for. That you can be in medicine and you can be very different people, you can come with different ambitions. And I hope what the audience takes away from this is that the problem is not getting into med school alone. That is, you think that, okay, once you've got past your exams and got into school, life will just play out. It doesn't. There are a whole lot of decisions that you have to make at every stage in life. So thank you guys for coming on the show. I had great fun. So
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank
thank
you,
you.
sir.
Thank you
It
for
was
having
really
all
nice
of
hope
us.
being here.
anyone who's watching this gets to understand how much there is to a career beyond just looking at saying, what do I want to do from life? Okay. All the best to all of you for the future. And if you want
Thank
to
you,
hang
sir.
around, let me just have my closing remarks and then I'll come back to you. Okay. Thanks.